Sure, for $1. For $1. Deadline says he's the brightest leading man to come along in years.
I think he is.
Yes.
He looks real bright.
Yeah.
Hell of a looking guy. Look at him.
Yeah, look at him.
Yeah, he's a good looking guy, too.
Yeah, who is he?
Fine, though.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Johnson, go, 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 go!
Hey everybody, welcome to Cordkillers. Our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord cutting revolution so that you can learn how to watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on whatever device you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey man, I'm Brian Brushwood, and I don't know if you were able to tell from the audio, but that was Chris Pratt, and that was Billy on the Street doing a True TV segment where he ran around with Chris Pratt and was astonished to find out how many people in New York City did not recognize him. And to me, this clip really spoke out about the fragmentation and the little bubbles we all live in where it's possible. You could not have done this segment in the 1980s. They call Chris Pratt the new Harrison Ford. I dare you to create a time machine and go back and get 1980s Harrison Ford to not get recognized everywhere he went back in the days when there was only one mega chain of movies and
I
3
disagree,
networks.
Brian. I believe that if I could create a time machine with just the amount of clever editing and production skills that Billy on the Street has today, I could create exactly that video. But to settle this matter, we welcome our guest, Roberto Villegas. Which side are you on, sir?
I am on Team Brian in this case. I do agree there are bubbles for sure. In terms of content, because I always think of like all the internet stuff I watch that, you know, hear people like Bernie Burns will, you know, certain places he'll be like, oh my God, it's Bernie Burns, the guy from Rooster Teeth. And if you just see, you know, other places like, who's this guy with a beard and you know, tall and whatnot.
Yeah.
There definitely are bubbles. You guys are absolutely right about that. I do think a lot of it is clever editing.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
for sure.
No.
It's content.
I
it has
doubt.
to be.
It's a magic trick. Absolutely. However, you know, it also is a magic trick that I think speaks much more to the age that we live in now than would have 30 years ago.
Yeah. It's easier to do is what you're saying. I think that makes sense. You want to see another magic trick, Brian?
Yeah, I do. I dare you.
Primary target.
Whoa. How did he? I don't understand.
Wizard powers.
Teach you someday. First, you get Brian to hire a guy named Bryce. Congress has directed the FCC to reevaluate new standards for downloadable security on your cable company's set-top box. The last time they set protocols was back in the mid-90s, and the reason they did it is because companies like TiVo wanted to make their own set-top boxes, and cable companies kind of wanted the popularity that might come with that, but kind of wanted to maintain control over all their programming. But those protocols are way out of date in 2015. So there's two proposals on the table that the FCC has been asked to choose between. One is from the cable industry and Hollywood movie industry that would allow your cable company to provide the apps and the interfaces on third-party devices that could only display that software that was designed and controlled by what's called the MVPDs, the multi-channel video programming distributors. The tech companies out there, the people who make the devices, have their own proposal. They call it a virtual head-end proposal, which would basically say we will create a simple format that the MVPDs can put their programming into, and then we, the device makers, get to create the user interface and implement features. The cable companies are upset about that because they're like, hold on, we have contracts that dictate things like channel placement. We can't just give you the programming, and what if you mess with the channel placement or the on-demand deals or whatever? Our contracts can't handle that. Also, we're not going to say this as loudly, but we really don't like the idea that some device maker could allow HBO Now to be an app, and then people would pay them instead of paying us to get HBO.
Okay, so I'm dumb, Tom. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm not very smart.
Not dumb, but for the purposes of this discussion, we'll pretend.
Just pretend. I know it's a stretch, but pretend I'm dumb and pretend I'm I don't know. Let's say reactionary, prone to over-exaggeration. That part of me, that aspect of me, wants to scream like, "Wait a minute! This is going to be the shape of all things to come. How can they decide whether or not this works on my TiVo or my Roku or my PS4 and all this stuff?" But it occurs to me that maybe we should talk to that version of Brian, who is not me, but a dumber version of Brian, who might. Let's explain all the things that this decision is not about.
Sure. Less savvy than the real Brian. Brian, let me tell you something. This is not about your Roku. This is not about your Apple TV. This is not even about your Windows 10 PC. This is simply about the kind of devices that can get cable television or satellite television programming. Essentially, what the cable companies wanted is a rule that says our programming can't get messed with. So somebody can't make a device that can plug into our video and take it and do whatever they want with it. We want control over the video programming we deliver. The problem is the protocols and the rules that were created in the mid-90s don't stand up to all the different things that the cable companies want you to do with the programming now. There needs to be some loosening to those rules, but they don't want it to be too loose. And of course, the tech companies that make the devices, they want it to be super loose. You know, I mean, Roku would love to be able to make a device that you could go to Best Buy, buy off the shelf, and have all of the Roku channels and apps that you would normally get on a Roku, but also be able to plug into your cable and get your cable television programming as well.
So, all right, Roberto, do you have a gut instinct in the great battle between cable industry apps versus virtual head-end proposals? Do you have like a deep pit of your stomach feeling?
I actually do. I'm all for the software developers on that end, especially that only because we are moving towards, at least in terms of content, where the box really isn't a thing in terms of like in traditionally, not like that there won't be set-top devices or anything like that, but that the idea that, I mean, you know, we're at a point now where we have like Fox has an app and, Comedy Central has an app. All these different people have them. And I would rather have a marketplace where it's not dictated by one side. I mean, because I know in the pre-show we kind of discussed a little bit about this.
Can I confess something
Sure.
to you? That that is what my gut says as well, because I hear the word app and I get warm fuzzy feelings. But then Tom had a metaphor that kind of broke my heart, because here's what you're actually voting for if you go the app the Cable Co app driven solution. What did you say, Tom?
Well, okay, the cable companies are saying we would like to provide our own apps, which sounds really nifty, right?
Yeah.
Except that means the cable company provides you a channel guide app and a cable company on demand app and no other apps that the cable company doesn't allow, right? The apps would be on the tech company's virtual head-end proposal. We're like, we'll have our own app stores. Thank you very much. Your virtual head-end will also provide the programming in a standardized format that we can deal with. It is like AOL saying, we want a rule that says you can only get AOL on a computer that can only get AOL. And we'll provide our apps, our AOL chat room and our AOL, whatever thingies, versus saying computers can install AOL and they can access AOL, but they're allowed to have other software.
I think that's the best comparison, because if I think of the era of AOL, that was the thing that you would essentially like my mother for the longest time didn't know quite what the internet was. She just knew it as AOL. Whereas as time went on, we would end up using the connection and just here's my dial-up connection, do it, and then launch some type of browser and move on our merry way. Because I'm definitely not on the side of the cable companies, because even in their brief they mentioned that it would like violate contracts, copyright law, and they bring up like the First and Fifth Amendment somehow into the mix. It's very much it's weird, because I don't really think there needs to be a rule, but I know that there needs to be a rule just to kind of get us through this portion.
I loved the first half of that sentence, hated the second half.
Of course you did, Brian.
You and I, listen, I mean, look, there doesn't need to be a rule, period. Let one company decide they're the app kings and that they control everything with their tightly controlled Apple-like, iron fist. Let the other ones say, hey, we're just going to provide the dumb feed. We're going to have 4 different cable boxes for you to choose from the best cable box manufacturers. And then meanwhile, y'all can fight over who gets to sell the brass on the Titanic. All that crap's going down.
If
you
it
think
wasn't,
you think we're gonna care about this in 10 years?
No, of course we're not caring about it in 10 years. These are not laws for 10 years. These are laws for the here and now. Because if I think about it now, we're in a market where you have a cable company that will, say, here's your cable modem. And while, yes, the cable modem, people don't tend to do that. You don't tend to typically rent cable box, buy cable boxes, TiVo being a prime example of that kind of going down. And so I know this is needed for now in terms of like where we are in the marketplace now. Because ultimately what's going to happen is that all this is not going to matter in about 5 years. In terms of like the internet's going to be where you'll get the content. And it won't really, like, all this is just sort of like, how do we fight for the now? And then after like 5 years later, it won't even matter, because we'll all be kind of getting content over the web in some capacity, whether it be through an application made by the content provider, or I mean like a station like a Fox or a Comcast, or sorry, a Comedy Central, or whatever.
I like calling them Comcap. That's a new like negative attack ad.
So just to interject a tiny bit here, this isn't a law. This
Right.
is a standard. Okay. And the reason that the FCC is directed by Congress to evaluate this is because the cable companies wanted a standard for device makers. They are the ones who asked for this. They said, please, we need a standard. We, the industry, would like you, the government, to create a standard so that all of us cable companies will agree to abide by a standard that the device makers will follow. And so it isn't as simple as, it's government versus not government. The government is actually just a client in this situation, which is an odd thing to wrap your head around. Both sides are asking the government to settle a dispute between them. And the FCC is just basically like, okay, you guys agree to go with whatever we say, and they say yes. This isn't necessarily a law that the government will pass and then both sides have to follow. It's that everybody has agreed that they want a standard, and the fight is over what that standard should be. So it's in some ways no different than IEEE creating a standard for USB, and all the companies that are part of that agree to like, okay, IEEE will do the standard. It just happens in this case that they've asked the FCC to create that standard.
Yeah. Okay. So,
and the reason that companies want the standard is piracy. They don't want people pirating the cable companies' video.
I mean,
and that's what they're crying when they say if the tech companies get their way with the standard, then everyone will rip off video. It'll violate our Fifth Amendment right because it'll be a public broadcast of a private property. And even the Writers Guild of America is on the side of the tech companies on this. And the Writers Guild of America is very pro copyright usually.
So tell me this first of all. I mean, is there any merit to that claim that of all the forms of piracy, is that really how people are pirating their content? Is by grabbing it with poor encryption off of their cable signals?
No.
So I mean, it's a straw man, right? It's a bogus proxy. Bogus Proxy is going to be my new band.
Bogus Proxy. It's an old story, and it's about control. And I'll be honest, I think the cable companies would be idiots not to be making the argument they are making, because this isn't about stopping the future. This is about slowing down the future. The cable companies want time. Mm-hmm. They are playing for time so that they can figure out how to properly make the transition. What music has taught us, what movies have taught us, what all of the tech disruptions of the past decade have taught us is you are better off slowing down innovation so that you can figure out what's actually going to work and jump on that ship if you want to survive as an individual company.
And that is 100% true from the business perspective. From the consumer perspective, of course, I love what happened to the music industry. Everything got tossed upside down, and what ended up happening was that, I pay a few bucks for Spotify and have all the music I could ever want. Now,
and it's an argument of public good versus private good, right? As an individual company, my private good is best served by slowing down innovation until I can tell where the safest place to transition my business is. The public good is not served by that. The public good is served by throwing everything up in the air and saying, well, something will be figured out and someone will land there to provide it. We don't really care who it is.
Yeah.
And I'm all for the tech side because that's what I want. I want that future where it's not slowed down. Like it's what bugs me about these sort of rules. I get why they need to happen or why there needs to be a standard. It's so funny we talk about, because even in the article, I think in the brief, it mentions like the older standard cable card, and I hadn't thought about that in years.
Yeah,
as something.
And as a cord cutter, why should you care what the cable companies do with their boxes? Because if the tech companies get their way, more people will be exposed to Netflix, because Netflix won't have to get a cable company's permission. It will get a device manufacturer's permission to show up on that box, which will make it easier. More Hulus, more Voodoos, more people signing up for these sort of services, learning how they work, making them more successful, moving us down that road faster.
I'll tell you what I care about, Tom. I don't
what
care
does that
about
mean you care about, Brian?
I don't care about your Hulus or your Voodoos. I care about the you lose. I mean, not that you lose. I mean you use. How about that?
How do you use Patreon to fund us?
Thank you. Yes. Patreon.com is where you can join the over 2,000 supporters, our fabulous patrons, the folks who keep this show loud, live, and independent. And we understand not all of you guys are into Patreon. Some of you guys had megrims about Patreon to begin with. You don't like signing up for services. You don't want to be charged overtime. That's all fine. Some people ask us if they can give us donations. We've never addressed this question before, have we, Tom?
Yeah, on Daily Tech News Show, like right from the beginning, people were asking, like, can I just do a one-time donation? So eventually I set up a PayPal account. Somebody was asking us if we could do that for Cordkillers. And I don't think we're going to, at least at this point, right?
Yeah. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. If you want to give a one-time donation, this is our official policy until we get off our butts. If we were doing things right, we would have a separate PayPal account and then we'd divvy it up. But it's already complicated enough to divvy up the money to begin with. I would love it if you would write down, pull out a Post-it note. Everyone pull out a Post-it note. Write down what you'd like your one-time donation to be. Are you doing this, Tom? Are you playing along?
Yeah, I've got an old Buzz Out Loud sticker.
Great. Okay, I want you on the back, write down what your one-time donation to Cordkillers is going to be. I want you to draw a line, and then I want you to draw 2 underneath it. That's the formula. Take that number, divide it in half, and then send half to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com on PayPal, and send the other half to brian@schwood.com. That's SHWOOD. There is no C in Schwood. And you, my friend, will have given your one-time donation. Make sure to put a little note. Oh, my God, 88 million divided by 2? That's almost 44 million
so
apiece.
I just divide that in half.
No, Tom! Now you're only giving 4 million apiece to us. You shouldn't have split it between the 4s. You see, you're supposed to divide.
Oops.
Yeah.
It's
Anyway.
still legal tender, though, if I have both pieces, right?
Okay. Thank you to everyone. And you know what? If you don't want to give any money, that's fine. Just tell your friends about us. You know, make sure that you support the show with your deeds, if not your cash. And if you do want to do a one-time donation, just drop us an email. Let us know that you did it at cordkillers@gmail.com and send that. Again, that's feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com and brian@schwood.com. That's us.
I now want a world where Buzz Out Loud stickers are legal tender.
Oh my God. I'm there.
Ryan would have been rich at one point in his life.
That's true.
Hey, there's always one in every crowd, and GGG in the chat room is that one right now. How about your Bitcoin addresses? Mine can be found at dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
Yeah, mine you got to buy stuff at scamstuff.com. We'll talk about that later.
Let's get to some signals intelligence then.
If you insist, sir.
I do. So Hulu has a head of distribution. His name is Tom Connolly, and on Friday he was talking. He was talking all kinds of things. He's like, virtual reality? Hell yeah, Hulu's ready for virtual reality. Freddie Wong is making a VR short film called The Big One alongside his Hulu original series, shot specifically for VR. Also, 70% of Hulu viewing is on a television. Roku is the most popular. Also, live programming? I don't know. It's in if mode, as in we're not even sure if we want to do live programming. Also, Hulu will have bigger growth than Amazon and Netflix over the next 4 years. Also, Hulu will see 11.8% growth in subscribers compared to only 11.1 and 12.3% for Amazon. Also, later this year, the miniseries 11/22/63 will debut on Hulu as an original series starring James Franco. Said a lot of things.
Okay, let's go in reverse order, starting off with that announcement about the miniseries 11/22/63. I don't know if you guys have read the book, but I absolutely loved it. It was the best Stephen King novel I've read in years, with one of the best endings he's ever done. I say that's nothing but a huge win. What say you?
I've yet to read the novel, so I'll go with your opinion of being.
That's right. That's always safe. Go with Brian.
This could be the big one for Hulu. I have to say, James Franco, big name. Stephen King book, big content. Could be the thing that gets people's attention onto Hulu Originals.
And quality content as well.
Even more so than the Mindy Project, which I thought would have a bigger splash than it seems to have had.
Well, I wonder if there hasn't been that built-up level of starvation for the content that we had with with Arrested Development. You know, we had 5 years of heartache or 6 years.
But with Mindy Project, it was just on TV last year. Like there was no. I think it's more the fact that people watching Mindy Project and Hulu don't realize it's not on TV anymore.
And well, that's what I'm saying is that there wasn't that aching longing, and then they didn't get to come up and be Santa and say like, wish granted. Second thing, let's talk about the accelerated growth for Hulu. To me, this just seems like an artifact of being a distant third place, right? When you're that far behind, and as a market reaches saturation, whoever's in third place, whoever has the biggest territory to gain, is going to be the fastest grower for the entire remaining run.
Not necessarily. We're talking about percentage growth over your existing percent. So sort of, Like, obviously, if you have one viewer and you go to two, you've grown by 100%, which isn't that impressive because you only have two viewers. But what I think Hulu, while it is distant third in amount, the fact that it's going to grow faster than Amazon and Netflix, yeah, okay. Netflix is going to be slowing down, but Netflix is also international. I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, not bad news for Netflix and Amazon, as Brian's saying, because Hulu's coming from behind, but also could be worse for Hulu. They could not be growing that fast.
Roberto, what say you?
Oh, I'm with kind of both of you. Like, it being a distant third is kind of where it is. I'd be more curious on Hulu's side whether that growth comes from more users or more sort of people getting the like lower tier that or the commercial free tier. Like that'd be the more interesting thing of like where the growth's coming from.
Also, something I just realized when you said that, Hulu is getting all of their growth out of one country. Amazon and Netflix have multiple countries.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about it in those terms. Now it makes me want to go back and make sure that that we're comparing apples to apples there. Okay, so let's talk about, tell me this, are these three facts in any way competition with each other? Live programming and if mode, I think they're insane to not try to get some kind of live programming Sling TV like functionality in there. I think that would really cause them to stand apart from the archival services.
I disagree with you real quickly on that
Sure.
because of the complication of getting those deals. Once people start getting really good deals that are comprehensive, then I think Hulu can jump in. But they already have all that content. So they can afford to be a second mover in that market, I think.
Roberto?
I'm already living the TV dream, and that is no ads whatsoever. So if I have to view ads while watching live programming, then no.
That's amazing. So like I derived immense joy from watching Rick and Morty on Sling TV along with the rest of the world at the big finale.
Right.
Even with the ads. In fact, the ads were a great break for me to pause and tweet and swap gossip with Bryce.
For sure. For me, my TV watching and my watching habits are now more or less, new content, cool. And I don't even think of like when that show broadcast. I watch Hulu with no ads. I don't think, Bones, that happened yesterday. It's like, oh no, it's here. It's Friday. It's Friday morning, and I get to watch it. Whatever.
You just live in your own schedule,
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so for me, that live function really doesn't resonate with me. I get where it is important. I get that social aspect for sure. But like I said, if that includes ads, no. I love Hulu with no ads. I love the idea of no ads on content. It's
70% of Hulu viewing is on a TV. Roku is the most popular. The first part did not surprise me at all, but the second part did. I keep forgetting what a dominating force the Roku is.
Yeah, it's been around the longest. Mm-hmm. It's always selling well, and as we'll talk about in the next segment, they keep putting out new hardware that seems to satisfy folks.
So here's the big one for me.
Okay.
This bet that they appear to be making, and I don't know how big a bet it is. My guess is that it's a fairly small bet, and they're going to experiment with a few kind of plaything. I actually think that this VR experience, this idea that you can experience Seinfeld from Jerry's couch, could be really, really huge. It could be really, really fun. However, it could be really, really dumb, and it occurs to me that there's only specific types of narratives that you can tell in a VR environment. You could tell real-time events. You could do things essentially like plays, but so many of the conventions that we've come to understand with narrative television, a Community, for example, is a single-camera show. They have them say the same line 6-7 times, and then they pick the funniest version of those, and they splice it together with the funniest response to all that. There can't be those jump cuts in a VR environment, right? Everything has to flow through all the way through. I am very bullish on the opportunity for VR to be mind-blowing and super engaging, but I don't know what the winner is going to be. Certainly sports, certainly live events, certainly news, presidential debates. I think the next time there's a riot, the chance to be there literally in the middle of the riot, getting beaten by cops with batons. I mean, we're going to go nuts for that. It's going to be society changing, but I don't know for narrative fiction how that plays out.
Have you used any of the VR headsets?
Sure. Yeah, I played around with like Google Cardboard and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Because I recently got the chance to use Project Morpheus for PlayStation VR.
Oh, sure.
And play some of the games on it. It was really fun. What I kind of see is definitely, I agree with you, live events, sports events for sure. much like in the gaming industry, a lot of things in terms of VR, like that being introduced, is actually changing how you do paradigms in terms of actual storytelling and doing gaming. Because the idea being that when you have VR in your head, you have the tendency to kind of move around, like you feel like you're in control. And when you're trying to tell like shot, like if you telegraph a shot, you're like, oh look, there's a spaceship up there or whatever. You know, the camera would focus there, but that doesn't work too much in VR. So I don't know. I don't know how you do a narrative in VR. Well, I think it's possible. I just don't know how you do it. And it's gonna take a lot of kind of saying what does VR give you.
You are correct in that. You know, I think it was Valve. I was probably wrong about this, but I think it was Valve that said the problem with trying to tell stories in video games is that your main character doesn't know his lines, he doesn't know his marks, and he doesn't know when he's supposed to do things. So you have to set it up to make it easy for him to do so. Tom, what say you about this whole VR speculation?
I mean, you could say it about every advance in any kind of visual storytelling. You could say that how can you properly put a stage play on a camera? Like you just lose all of the elements and the depth of theater. And they figured out how to do it. And they figured out that there were all kinds of advantages that you could do with editing in movies that you couldn't do with the theater because it wasn't live. And we forget, you couldn't not do anything live until movie making and sound recording came along, right? And so that's groundbreaking. I think this is just as groundbreaking. Right now, you can't look behind you during a movie. Now you can. All of your objections are perfectly legitimate as to like, oh, well, you can't do this anymore and you can't do that. They will figure it out. Either there will be a way that doesn't make you sick to change the scene that you can override when you want to. What I think is going on is Hulu, Netflix, Mythbusters, Discovery. Everybody is excited about this. Everybody's trying it. They're trying to come up with business reasons why they should try it. But you know why they're really trying it? Because it's fun. Yeah. Because it's new. Because it's groundbreaking. And what we are seeing is people with film cameras in the early 1900s playing around and seeing what can be done. Oh, yeah, it will be 20 years before we really know what virtual reality storytelling should start out to be, but this is the exciting time.
Boom, and you nailed it. And if you want any proof of that, remember that in the beginning, people didn't know what to do with cinema, so they just tried to do what they had done with theater and plays. So in the old days, it was a compliment to say that a movie looks so theatrical, whereas later, 20 years later, you're like, oh, it looks so staged, am I right? The exact same compliment became a detriment. Video games are the exact same thing. Remember when in the early 90s, they're like, oh man, that opening was so cinematic. Now we complain when a game is on rails. It's just moves you forward.
I couldn't be more excited, and I kept saying this during like the gaming side of things. That's kind of where I'm in VR, is that we're in Gen 1, and Gen 1 is the way it is now, and I'm super excited for the idea that Gen 2 and 3 for all this is going to have it. I'm definitely conceive like a vision, especially like a sports event where you have like multiple fixed cameras and you just sort of warp to wherever you want to go and watch the game from there at any given point in time.
Schnogo makes a really interesting point. He says the most important reason Hulu would be interested is because VR isn't easily pirated right now. I don't know that that's true. I mean, that seems like that's a matter of 20 minutes of.
By the time enough people can watch it, people have figured out how to pirate it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just bits, folks.
Setting up bootleg streams and all that stuff.
Let's gear up. Speaking of streams, this isn't about streaming, it's about gear.
Speaking about things we weren't speaking about, let's gear up.
Hey, we finally have it. HBO Now is available on the Roku. It's in the channel store. You can go sign up. And if you don't already have HBO Now, you get 30 days free if you sign up through the Roku. That comes along with the news of the Roku 4 streaming player. So there you go. That's what we were waiting for. Got to announce the new hardware when you announce HBO Now. Get people all excited about it. The new Roku 4 supports 4K content playback at 60 frames per second. That's a better frame rate than Apple or Amazon. The same as the TiVo Bolt. It can auto-adapt to the quality of the streaming. Also adds in 802.11ac, new 4K row in the channel store. You can send photos from your phone to a 4K screen through the Roku. And there's a button on the box. If you lose the remote, you press the button. The remote can either buzz or ring. You can set your preference, and then you can go try to find the remote. Pre-order now, ship in October 21st for $130.
So forgive me for taking us back in the conversation, but I agree with the overall sentiment of what you said earlier, in that this is the same debate that we have every time there's a new technology. How are we going to tell stories of the old technology? But 4K in 60 frames per second, I think, might be kind of the exception in that it's an increase in fidelity. It doesn't really change anything fundamentally. And I got to admit, as the prices come down and the hardware gets better, Tom, I think I'm willing to say publicly, I'm for Kurious, spelled with a K.
With a K. Exactly.
I think I'm ready to give it a try, especially with the high dynamic range televisions out there.
Well, and that makes all the difference, right? High dynamic range is the difference you can see. And 4K lets you see high dynamic range. And by the way, this 4K 60 frames per second does support high dynamic range. 4K content sometimes doesn't look any different than HD if it's not properly done. So the HDR makes all the difference, I think.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely agreed. I got to tell you, I thought I was settled on getting the new Apple TV. I think I might go with the Roku because I don't have a 4K television, but I think there's a very strong probability that I'll get one within the next year or so. Mainly, and I've said this before, mainly for the desktop real estate on a computer. Yeah. But as long as I can watch, HBO or whatever in 4K.
I'm just excited for 4K content in general, especially the idea that even if you had a 4K stream at, let's say, 1080p. Because of the way kind of real estate works and screens, you could technically zoom in on a shot somewhere. It kind of virtually as a viewer, if you need to see something a little bit closer.
Oh, that's
up,
interesting. So even though you can't display 4K, you could display a quarter of the screen in 1080p.
Right, exactly, or kind of show it all off. And I think that's kind of cool too, because even though right now I have a 4K TV, I'm probably not gonna buy one for a while because my PC, I don't have the card to do 4K quite yet. But I do like the idea of more fidelity on content, and that's always a good thing.
One of the big advantages to having DirecTV in 1999, 2000, I guess, was when I got it, was that I could buy an HD TV and have programming for it. Because DirecTV had 6 HD channels. Isn't it something to notice that what's driving 4K programming forward in 2015 is over-the-top set-top boxes? It's Roku, it's Amazon Fire TV, it's Apple TV. Because they're nimbler, they can plug into whatever service is providing 4K. The service providers can be nimbler and say, we can just acquire some stuff and put it out over the internet. We don't have to set up infrastructure. We don't have to strike contracts. I mean, this 4K could actually be the thing that pushes content onto the internet because bandwidth willing, and not everybody has enough bandwidth for 4K video right now, you are going to get a lot more content over the internet than you are through your cable.
Yeah, because a lot of the 4K content that I even know about is on YouTube. Like there's a ton. Like I know Rooster Teeth does all their animated adventures in 4K just for the sake of doing it in 4K, and I know that that's going to be the thing. And even one of the big things on YouTube is 60 frames per second, especially for the gaming content and streaming and whatnot. So you're absolutely right, Tom. It is exciting the fact that the internet's what's pushing the 4K to happen.
Yeah. And Tensor Guy points out in the chat room, bandwidth is in a constant state of not being enough. We always say that. I went back and listened to an old Buzz Out Loud of us talking about Netflix and how people don't have enough bandwidth to stream video all the time. That has ended up consistently being a complaint, but hasn't stopped Netflix at all.
Yeah, it's like a storage space, right? You will always, throw more boxes in there to fill the capacity that you're given, and you will always wish for just a little bit more, so you didn't have to, pick and choose.
Brian, I get what you're saying and wanting to get a little bit more. I mean, we have a Patreon for Cordkillers, but sometimes you need something else. You need just a little bit more to help you out.
Well, I mean, if by you mean a clever gift to give a loved one,
exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Just a little bit of something.
So keep in mind, there's 2 ways to support us. Of course, you can donate to us directly or hit us up at Patreon, or you can frequent our online stores. And if you go to scamstuff.com, you're going to see that we have a brand new. It's called the Infinite Birthday Card. It is a birthday card that plays. Oh, go turn it up, turn it up. This cheesy jingle. The moment they open the card and click go, it starts playing, and then when they click it to turn it off, it goes twice as loud, and it never stops. So it will go for like 3 or 4 hours until they destroy the card. It's available right now, and of course, if somebody has a birthday, and of course, we've got a preview, there's going to be a Christmas version one coming up soon. But even if you're not sure what to get from the store, maybe sign up for our email list, because we've got a couple of top secret projects that we're going to be able to announce in the next week or two. And of course, the people on the email list are the ones who are going to get it first.
Let's move on to the lines Because they're in front of us. That's why we call it front lines.
Is it? I thought it was
Yeah.
because that's where we went to war with.
Eurasia.
Oh, that's why. Oh, it's still. Wait, turn it up. Turn it up. Is it still playing?
Yes.
Just let it play.
Of course it is.
This is the virtual. No, kill it.
Said it was a bad idea to put it on the webpage. I said it.
Did we get to the front lines?
We
Great,
did.
here
We're there.
we
We're there.
are. Okay, for the first time since May 2014, Netflix is raising prices for new customers. Standard 2-stream plans go from $8.99 a month to $9.99 a month in the United States. Current customers stay at their current rate. Log into your account to see how long that rate is guaranteed. I'm still on the $7.99 plan, and when I logged in, they said my rate will last until May 9th, 2016.
I'll tell you what, man. It was within seconds of seeing this headline that my involuntary thought was still a steal. $9.99 for what Netflix provides, still a bargain.
When my rate goes up in May 9th to $9.99 is that's when Netflix is going to start having backlash, because people will go, wait a minute, it went up $2. The $8.99 people, I think, are grandfathered in longer for an entire year, but it is smart to not raise it for anybody current right at this moment. It is also fair for them to eventually raise it. I get that.
Well, yeah, they always said they were going to raise it already. So to me, it was almost a non-story because of they already told us way back when that they were going to raise the prices around this time. So.
All right, so Tom, we got Sony is going to launch a universal remote for the PS4 in North America later this month for $30. The remote will control the interface and a range of apps, as well as 3 different devices. I assume those are all Sony devices. I got to tell you, I thought 2 thoughts rapidly in succession. I thought this is dumb as hell, because if you have a PS4, you're comfortable using a gamepad. And then I instantly remembered the 15-minute orientation I had to give my mother-in-law explaining how to use a gamepad and which up, down, left, right, triangle, X, square would actually fast forward, pause, rewind, and select. And I realized that, I'd rather just pay $30 and give her one of these.
I had the reverse problem, which is, whoa, this is brilliant. You know, I hate having to pick up my PS4 controller and use that and have a whole different metaphor that I have to think about when I'm watching videos. And then I thought, oh, wait, I have a universal remote. I hope they update the definitions. I'm certainly not paying $30 to buy a second remote just to use the PS4.
Roberto?
My response was, how is this different from the PS3 remote they released way back when?
Probably not at all.
It's way different. It controls the PS4.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. A Forrester research study surveyed 32,000 adults in the U.S. and found our answer for us, Brian. 18% of them have never paid for traditional TV. And of that 8%, the 7% represented people aged 18 to 31. So actually more people over 31 have never had cable than people under 31. Survey found that 6% of the United States are cord cutters, meaning they had paid but have stopped. And Forrester estimates by 2025, half of 18 to 32-year-olds will not pay for TV in the current model, whether they have before or not. Currently, 76% of U.S. adults are cord havers, people with cable TV.
Dude, this is a nutrient-dense knowledge bomb. I mean, first of all, the fact that by 2025, half of the most coveted demographic are not going to be participating in traditional advertising or on cable television, that is insane. I was surprised that it was less than half were 18 to 31 now. I would have thought that number to be higher on the cord neverers. Which
There's just more people in the older demographic, but even then, I still would have thought it had been a higher percentage.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm technically in the higher demographic in terms of that. Like, I've never had cable. I mean, like, ever since I've left, like on my own, I've never purchased like cable television.
Ever since you left the womb, that was the last cable you saw. Well,
I'm saying like that's like I've always had internet and cable internet or otherwise, but I've never paid for like cable TV content. So
you don't have to. If you head on over to Paramount's new YouTube channel called Paramount Vault, it features free full-length movies and clips. Paramount is owned by Viacom, which BT Dubs sued YouTube over unauthorized free movies and TV shows uploaded to the platform back in the day. We're looking at right now. We're seeing clips of stuff like World War Z. I'll tell you, if you want a laugh, go back and look through Massa Worm. That's C. Robert Cargill's Twitter feed, where he sings to the high heavens. Yes, there are good movies on this, but their garbage is epic. He loves all the crappy movies that are now freely available at youtube.com/Paramount, I assume.
I have to see what's on the vault. I'm so curious now, like what's on that in terms of what crap is there. And
it's the long tail. It's like really old movies, really unknown movies. What's most valuable out of this is clips. So what Paramount's doing is just saying, hey, when you send a clip out of your favorite Paramount movie to somebody, we want it to be us. We want to get the credit for that, possibly monetize it. I haven't had any pre-roll ads run yet, but I imagine that's because it's brand new and they don't want to annoy people right out of the gate. The full movies that are there is just so they can put that in the press release. There's really nothing super notable.
Okay.
I mean, you can watch Airplane. I mean, just watch the sizzle reel. You'll get excited about it.
Well, Airplane clips, I don't think you get all of Airplane.
I think.
I mean, in the sizzle reel, they're showing lots of things they have clips for, not things that.
Right. That's why I'm so curious. What's the movie wise?
Right.
Now, on the front page, this is the things they're highlighting.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
World of Susie Wong, Elephant Walk, Where's Marlowe, The Fighting Kentuckian.
Okay, no, you're right. By the way, I misspoke. It's not youtube.com/Paramount. You actually have to search for Paramount Vault because they don't have a vanity URL yet.
Yeah, they need to have a certain amount of subscribers to do
not
that.
suing them again someday and maybe getting that.
But you can see the Revenge of the Ninja.
Thank goodness.
I think I have an idea for a show now.
Vudu updated their Android app to make it easier to use and add HD playback at 720p and 1080p, something the iOS app still can't do yet. Oddly, the feature is not available for the Android TV, so you can't play high def on the Android TV box right now.
Yeah, I don't know that surprised me. We see a lot of that balkanization of different, subdivisions of companies.
I can play high def on my Roku.
That's a good point.
You think they would have? I guess what surprises me is you think they would have done the Android TV one first, then the tablet and the phone.
Well, not if you were going for market share, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So you would go with the bigger one.
I would say the same thing. You can make the mobile first.
One more story. Bloomberg says that its sources say that Amazon is talking to CBS and NBC about a linear TV service. The sources say the deliberations are preliminary, but they were not able to intercept the note at homeroom. Apparently they're passing notes
next to your Apple television service one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see if that turns into anything.
And that, my friends, is the front lines. Let's see what's under surveillance. Vimeo unveiled funding for 3 new original series. A new 6-episode season of relationship drama The Outs coming in Q1 2016. 2 comedy specials, one called Bianca Del Rio's Rolodex of Hate comedy special live from Austin.
I'm in love with it based on the title alone.
It'll come to Vimeo in December. And Darby Forever, a short film from SNL cast member Aidy Bryant, coming in Q1 2016.
I'll tell you what, Vimeo really, and I would love to know who owns the right to high maintenance and all that, because we saw it graduate. Was it a Cinemax or
it does now? Yeah,
HBO, or it's traditional cable now. But it makes me wonder if
HBO.
Vimeo. HBO. Vimeo can build itself a little reputation as being a little incubator for high quality programming that graduates into mass media stuff.
Well, they've always been Vimeo's always been sort of the place where real film people put their clips and stuff like that.
Well,
that is the place.
Yeah,
to
quality
do it.
has always
Right.
reigned supreme. At
Right,
Vimeo.
and that's kind of what makes me excited for this, is seeing Vimeo kind of go out more, because a lot of people always kind of put Vimeo in this really, really distant area, where it's I would rather put my stuff on Vimeo versus YouTube if I had a choice.
Sure.
And what Vimeo says is, look, we have a $10 million budget, not a $1 billion budget like Netflix. So what we want to do is encourage high-quality auteurs, I don't think they use the word auteur, to come to our platform and create stuff with the idea that, hey, the best stuff might get funded a little bit by Vimeo, and if we get a little funding from Vimeo, it might take off and get acquired by somebody big like HBO. And they have high maintenance as that success story to tell now. Vvatch.tv, VVATCH.tv is a streaming video of curated YouTube clips, often cut from longer videos. It's supposedly a preview of a curated streaming service. If you go to vvatch.com, you actually see a bunch of different things. They have different channels and blog posts, etc. But Brian, this is probably trying to take your job away, I feel like.
It's at some point, yeah, okay, fine, it is. Replace me with an algorithm. I dare you. See how you like it.
But it's not an algorithm. It's people. Basically, all they do is the Night Attack pre-show 24/7.
All right, stop talking. Let's not promote this. Let's not encourage it. Let's deny it exists.
Hey, Netflix released the final trailer for its film Beasts of No Nation, releasing this Friday on Netflix and in select theaters. In fact, landmark theaters here in the U.S. are getting it, so that way it can qualify for Oscar nominations. You get a chance to maybe see it on a big screen, which part of me wants to just go see it on a big screen so I can see the big Netflix logo up there on a big screen.
That would be pretty cool. Did you watch the trailer? Did it affect your excitement for the show?
Me?
Yeah.
I did, and yes, it did.
Okay. I did not.
Did you?
So it did not. Turns out you need to watch a trailer to have it affect you.
Yeah. This is the one with Idris Elba. It's based on a true story, based on a book, and it is directed by Cary Fukunaga, who did the first season of True Detective.
Real quick, one errata. It's VVACHT.TV. I think when you said it, the T got transposed, but it's like the word watched past tense, but spelled as stupidly as you possibly can. VVATCH.
Yeah,
TV.
TCH.
It is?
It's dumb. I mean, that's what's written in the doc.
I wrote it wrong in the...
Oh, is it? Okay, maybe then I'm wrong. Then
I fixed it.
Oh, okay. I read the...
This is the beauty of naming an internet company.
The errata is my errata announcements.
It's VVATCH.TV.
So it's current tense of watch spelled with 2 V's.
It's really a bad name.
I feel like I'm back in
matter.
Startup Spelling Bee again.
Got it?
Yeah. So what have you been watching there, Roberto?
Surprisingly enough, a lot of stuff on Hulu and internet stuff. I kind of watching The Muppets, the new series there, Bones and everything else. I'm actually really excited. Coming up on October 24th there, Rooster Teeth's launching Volume 3 of Ruby, and I could not be happier to kind of sink my teeth into that, and just, the usual YouTube stuff like that. But I'm actually curious because I saw on you that you've been watching The Muppets. What do you think about it so far?
It's okay. I don't hate it. Is probably the thing that I would say. I keep thinking, you know what? I love these characters. That's enough to get me through now. I'm going to give them some chance to find their feet, because the conceit of being a documentary behind the scenes Office, Parks and Rec type thing is not enough to carry it, and it occasionally will have a good laugh or two in it. So I'll give it 5 or 6 episodes.
I'm about the same way. I am definitely enjoying it. I'm not hating it. I know this is season 1, so they got to kind of get certain things out of the way. But I'm definitely digging this sort of Kermit the Frog, sort of just completely and utterly defeated in life. In terms of like that, I'm really digging him as a producer, for sure.
Brian, what about you? What's been filling your eyeballs?
Finally got caught up on The Leftovers. Watched episode 1 and episode 2 of season 2. Spoiler alert, Tom. I loved everything. I loved everything about it. I love the pivot. I love the new environment. I love the justification they give to move the characters over there. I even loved the weird 2001-esque. We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it during the show. But
we'll talk about it in spoiler time. I hold to my opinion of the first half hour. The second half hour of season 1 or the episode 1 got better, and I really, really liked episode 2.
Yeah, well, we'll break it down in spoiler in time. I also watched The Shield episode 9 of season 7. You wrote 809 and I copied it. It's season 7, so 709.
Never copy what I write. I don't know what I'm talking about.
And also, I ended up playing a 90-minute semi-interactive experience called The Beginner's Guide. Mm-hmm. That it's ostensibly a video game, but it might as well be a television show. I did it once with Bryce, and then I did it again watching my wife play through. And it was a fascinating piece of art in that I was left enraged by both of the characters, only one of which you actually get to meet.
Have you played any of the other narrative games like Stanley Parable?
Stanley Parable, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend too much time because we normally talk about video content.
No, I was just curious, just because like that's kind of been my sort of jam in terms of games as of late, is a lot of the narrative games coming out, like Her Story and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely still need to play that.
It's a triumphant piece of art in that it enraged me and left me feeling unsatisfied and angry. But that, I believe, was the intent of the artist. So congratulations to the artist in doing so.
I am not going to say all of the things I've been watching because it's the fall TV season and I like to sample a lot of different things before I fall into my patterns. But I will report on the fact that we no longer have DirecTV. How has that impacted our experience? Not really that much. a little more remembering where to go to find something to watch because it's not all in one box, right? But we'd already been doing that anyway. So here's what I have to report. The Flash over-the-air broadcast by the CW was just watchable. There was a weird reception error with the over-the-air, and we usually get really good service. The next day, the Arrow was perfectly fine. So it was a weird anomaly, but it was nice knowing, well, if I have to, we can watch it on Hulu the next day. I've had no problem watching the MLB playoffs. I can get all the TBS games and ESPN games on Sling TV. I can also get the TBS games and the Fox Sports 1 games on PlayStation Vue. I've been watching the Rugby World Cup on Universal Sports on Sling TV. I've been watching Doctor Who by buying it and just downloading it and watching it on Sunday. No big deal there. Once Upon a Time, over the air. And I went to the movies, Brian. We're one of the cities lucky enough to get the early release of Steve Jobs, so I went and saw that yesterday.
Can you spoil me on it? Because I have no plans to see it right now.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, say it in spoiler time.
It, but it's also not really spoilable. I mean, if you've read anything about Steve Jobs, you kind of know what's going to be in it. But what I'll say that I don't think is spoiling at all is this is a character study of Steve Jobs. If you go into this looking for a biography, you will be sorely disappointed.
Okay.
Some of it's not right. Things are happening that didn't happen when they happened. They're trying to provide insight into Jobs' character by basically showing you him backstage before various major announcements in his career. But what I think they did excellent at is giving you an idea of the kind of human being that would give rise to all of the legends of Steve Jobs. You look at the portrayal by Fassbender and think, yeah, I don't know if that's really what Steve Jobs is like, but it definitely could have been, because that is a real person who would do things that then would be reported and interpreted in the way that Steve Jobs was.
Awesome. Well, maybe I will go see it now. Well, way to shill for the man. Hey, one quick note. I did install today I finally put Sling TV out of all the iPads. The old iPads all become the children's, and lucky enough, all the Gen 1 iPads couldn't have a high enough version of iOS, but the second generation one did, and so I was able to install Sling TV, and Josie is finally not bothering me about the fact that she could only watch clips of Cartoon Network programming, but now she's and what's funny is I tried to explain, hey, you can't choose what programs come on. It's only, you can't pause it, you can't do all these things. And she's like, yeah, but it's the whole episodes, right? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, great. And then off she went. As long as the faucet was on and full programs were coming at her, she was happy.
Oh, one thing I almost forgot to say, PlayStation Vue, because it's trying to overprotect the content, really screwed me up during one of the games, because it just stopped working, and so when I closed it and reopened it, it couldn't load the one channel I'd been watching. It would load other channels, but not that, and I had to restart the PlayStation to get it to work. Sling TV has a thing where you can only watch one stream at a time, and so I was watching it on my phone while we were out and about, which I'm like, this is great. I can't do this with my DirecTV, watching all my live channels right here. Then I get home, I turn off the phone, I turn on the Roku, and it says, yeah, we can't authorize this stream right now. It's playing on another channel. And I'm like, no, it's not. I close my phone, and it took a good 15 minutes for it to finally figure out that other stream wasn't there.
See, that's a bummer, because that seems easily fixable. It seems like it could have booted someone else off the stream to have you take precedence over it.
Yeah.
But
again, that protectionist stuff is what gets in the way of this stuff working. Also, side note, I want to watch Star Wars Rebels, so I added the kids pack to Sling TV so I can get Disney XD, which has Star Wars Rebels available on demand. I checked, and so for $5 a month, cheaper than buying it, I'll get all those shows.
Report back and let me know what you think about it, because I'm actually curious.
I'll tell you what, I'm enjoying. We're sort of savoring. I went ahead and bought the whole season of Rebels, and it's like a treat that we sort of sprinkle here or there.
Yeah. Did you buy season 2? I didn't see it on sale yet.
No. Still season 1. Still going through season 1.
Premieres this week.
Okay, right on.
On the lookout, Bryce. What have you been looking at?
Hey guys, I have a new Hulu program for you guys. It's fall, so Hulu's putting a pretty big bet on this show. It is called Casual, and it follows a mother and her daughter who move in, who is in the process of getting divorced, and she moves in with her bachelor life brother, who is also the creator of some big dating website. And so it's the premise is sort of her exploration of going into casual dating and casual intimacy. And it's actually pretty funny. The first 2 episodes are up on Hulu now. There are new episodes coming up every Wednesday, I believe. And it's being directed by the gentleman who directed Juno and Up in the Air, both of which are fantastic movies. As a sitcom, it's not as traditional as the premise would make it seem. It's not, a joke a minute. It's actually a little more. I don't want to say serious, but it's not trying to make you laugh all the time. And I
closer to like Orange Is the New Black or something, kind of dramedy type space.
So far, there hasn't been a lot of drama, but it's trying to have a half serious tone.
Huh.
It's trying not to. It's kind of taking itself a little seriously, and I think it's actually working well because it could show casual dating and sex positivity in a wrong light if it were any more glib.
Huh.
So that's Casual on Hulu.
Also, Fargo starts tonight, season 2.
Oh, hells yeah. I was wondering. I felt there was a void in my life that needed to be filled. Somebody's going to Amazon and buying the whole season right now.
All right, let's get on to the dispatches from the front.
Mike writes in saying that he finds it interesting that Tom suggests that TiVo look to Roku for inspiration on how to proceed going forward. Given that Roku was started by Replay TV founder Anthony Wood, there's probably some institutional bias against adopting Roku's model for, well, pretty much anything. Keep up the good work,
if I worked at TiVo, I'd be like, we should look to Apple TV. I wouldn't use the words Roku. That's a really good point, Mike. Drew wrote in and said, hey, Brian and Tom, a few episodes ago you had on the guy who runs Pluto TV, and after checking it out, I've fallen in love. It's great to be able to flip through the channels again. They also have a lot of great programming.
Heck yeah, thank you. And thank you to the fine folks at Pluto.tv for reaching out to us and sharing. What was his chief growth officer? It was fantastic. All right, so what is this note here? It says this segment of dispatches is called "But My Situation is Different."
The following 3 emails are like, I know you said this, but my situation is different. And I'm not sure that their situations are representative of a lot of other people, but they are different.
Okay. This first one comes from Micah, who says, hey guys, you've had several people say they want the ability to download streaming video for later playback, but my situation hasn't been mentioned yet. I have a satellite internet service that has a low monthly bandwidth cap, except for a few hours in the middle of the night when I can download anything without a cap, which, by the way, is an extraordinary idea to me, that they have a secret all-you-can-eat hours. He says, if a service allows downloads, I could grab shows I'd like to watch during the free times and watch them later without worrying about how quickly I'm blowing through my cap. In fact, because Amazon just added the download feature, I finally got Amazon Prime. If Netflix ever adds this feature, I would order Netflix too. That's
intriguing.
Peculiar situation.
Well, and it's better congestion management. Like, your congestion generally does happen at particular day parts, not all the time. So that's pretty smart. Walt in Birmingham says, how many people have speakers with headphone-sized jacks on them? My home speakers are all wired up with speaker wire. Am I missing something with this Chromecast speaker thing?
Yes, you're missing a $3 adapter available at Amazon.com. that's all you're missing.
Also, all my speakers have mini jacks on them, but they're all.
And keep in mind, if your speakers are wired, then they're almost certainly wired into an amp, and your amp has some kind of input, most likely a quarter-inch jack, which, of course, that really is a 99-cent adapter to go.
And you can get an adapter that goes mini jack to RCA as well to go into those.
Correct. Joe from LA says, I did it. I cut the cable cord, but I did go Dish with their 2-year price lock, $50 per month, and I have to tell you, Dish doesn't get enough credit. Great tech, great price, and a free year of Netflix that works on the Hopper Sling box, all included in that $50, I assume $50 per month price tag. I've been traveling a lot in the last 2 months, and the Sling capabilities have made it nice and easy to get my Doctor Who Mr. Robot fix without the torrents. Good for you for going the legit route. He says, if it weren't for my pesky kids, it's really their technophobe grandmother, I would have completely cut the cord long ago, but this option is the best deal I found if you want to keep some normal TV around. Thought I'd chime in, keep it up.
Yeah, you know what? This is just a testament to the fact that cutting the cord may not be the best move. Some kind of lateral move from one kind of cord to a different kind of cord. I mean, and they're all cords.
I mean, as long as you're watching what you want, when you want,
Exactly.
on any damn device you please, right?
How do we watch more Roberto Villegas? That's what I want to know.
Oh, that's easy. Just you can either go to here directly at diamondclub.tv or just head to my website, cosmicradio.tv. It's kind of exciting because this Wednesday I'll be doing episode 200 of My So-Called 8-Bit Life.
Holy cow!
Congratulations,
Already,
man. Awesome.
how the time passes.
Yeah, it's actually been kind of weird.
We've all. I think everyone in this room has been on My
Yeah,
So-Called
yeah,
8-Bit
pretty
Life.
much everybody that's in this room physically has been on My So-Called 8-Bit Life at one point or another in time.
That's wonderful,
Some more
man.
than most, but everyone's been on at least once or twice.
Congratulations, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, name that website again?
Cosmicradio.tv.
Go there, folks. Subscribe, watch, enjoy. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Brian, cord cut, cord killed.
I mean, if you pronounce, are we calling it time of death?
Yeah. Time of death.
7:08 p.m. Central Time. Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
Unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
Let's go.
it's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.